Well, the first few minutes of the market today, complete whipsaw, and it was just like 5 minutes, and I'll show you. It's the day after Netflix earnings. Netflix had a huge run up yesterday. I'll show you that based on their earnings, and then just the dollar, it came up on my daily support level, my daily resistance level, broke it from that. That kind of triggered me to exit the trade whenever I could to take the least amount of loss on that trade because I felt that the trade was going against me. However, it ended up going in the direction that I initially sent the trade in. But after reviewing my trades, I could see that it would have hit my stop loss regardless for a bigger loss, and then I would still be out of the trade if I didn't re-enter and even pivot. So I'll show you what I did. So basically today I had three trades, two losses, one win, and then the win ended up bringing me back close to break even of like a -2 on the day. And that was pretty good because I could see the top. I spotted the top again on the dollar, and then I just bought the QQQ from there. However, I didn't hold it for the entire day. I sold it at a part, and then I'll show you where I can see that the trade continued to run, and I could have made a bit more money, but that's how it goes. I'm just working on just trusting the system and believing in myself a bit more. So that's why I'm trading every day to just build that consistency, right? So let's get into it. So the first trade was at 9:30, right? 9:30 I went for a buy. The reason for the buy, as you know, the dollar was going negative. I could see the dollar also break below my level of support, previous support, and now it became resistance. The dollar came right below and had a huge candle down, right? So from that, I figured we were having a bearish sentiment on the dollar. A bearish sentiment on the dollar translates to a bullish sentiment on the QQQ, right? However, the next candle that was right after market open or exactly at market open was a big green candle, and that's how the market maker or institutional player can actually knock out a lot of people who aren't strong in their positions. If you have options, something like this, a move like this can really damage your options because just the volatility and the swinging from like high to low, that really kills premium. And if it kills your premium, it's hard to make money on options at that point. So that's what we had. The first move in the market was a big green candle, and that kind of shake a lot of people out of their positions. Obviously, it shaked me out as well. So I'll show you where I entered and exited on the first trade within the first 3 minutes, because as I saw the dollar break above my resistance level, that's where it kind of looked like it was going to continue against me. But I'll show you right now on the QQQ chart. So the QQQ is at the bottom and the DXY is at the top. At the top, the DXY is the dollar currency index, right? It measures the strength of the dollar against other currencies and equities, right? So at 9:30, this is the 9:30 candle, and I entered for 20 shares at 27685. So that's like right at the top, bro. 27685. And let's bring it across. 27685. Perfect, right there. So that's where I entered on the QQQ, right? And let's zoom it in a bit more. So this is where I entered on the QQQ. And then as I saw the green candle being formed on the dollar, breaking above that previous support but no resistance level, I kind of felt like the trade was being invalidated. So I had sold out this position and flipped it, right? But I kept the risk relatively low. So I'll show you what happened after that. So after 3 minutes, I sold out the position at 27629. 27629. So right there, 27629. So I bought it here for a buy for it to continue. As you can see, for the rest of the day, the buy turned out to be the correct move. However, if I had my stop loss at 275.85, I would have gotten hit out on the second candle. Anything after that, I would have been able to hold this trade for the rest of the day, just riding in profits, right? So this is where I enter. This is where I close the trade for a loss of 1270, right? So the next trade was a sell, right? So I explained the reason for the sell is because it was breaking above this level on the dollar, and the dollar indicates a lot of the trend on the QQQ, the SPY, the Dow. But I realized that the QQQ reflects it a bit more than the other symbols. It's possible because it doesn't have a overweighting and it doesn't have a underweighting. So the Dow has like less stocks, and then the SPY probably has a lot of stocks. So the dollar might not have that much of a relationship with the stocks in there, right? So I went to the sell side at exactly the same time that I exited the other trade, right? So it's still on the 930 candle at 27622. So I entered on the sell side here, and then I'm pretty sure I had my stop loss at 277.17 in case it began to go against me, right? 277.17, and that's a 950 candle. 277.17, 950 candle. Right, so right about there, 277.17, 950 candle, and that was to the sell side. And this is where I lost 20.50 on that trade. So that's like a 1 to 3 risk reward, because I was aiming for it to go down and then to close it when it hit like 3 times my risk or 2 times my risk, right? And then that's what happened. And then what I could see here on the final trade, that was a $34 profit trade, and that was at, what's this, -5. That was on the 1050 candle, and you can see we're at 10 o'clock. That's where I saw the dollar form another top here, right? So let me mark where the 1050 candle is on the dollar. So the 1050 candle is here. That's where I believe the dollar came down, it formed a low, and then you have something called a lower high. When you have a lower high, that's bearish, right? So when you have a lower high, it kind of sets the precedence for that ticker or that equity to continue to go lower, because it kind of form a lower high. That means that it's going to make a lower low thereafter at some point in the future. So at 1050 is when I entered back on the QQQ to the buy side, and as you can see here, it was kind of forming a bottom on the QQQ as well, which is perfect. So we entered at 27762, 1050 candle, 27762. Yeah, I had to zoom it in a little bit so I get the accuracy. So on the 1050 candle, 27762, perfect, right there. Okay, so this is where I entered to the buy side, and then I sold it at -5 from this, which is 1226. So that's the 1225 candle. So 1225, let's see, 1225. So right about there at 279.50. So the reason for exiting this is just locking in some profits, trying to just clear up what I had initially from the day, the losses from the day. So that's how I ended up with just a -2 loss overall. And then just locking in profits because I didn't want to be too greedy in case the market started to go against me again, right? But as you can see, for the rest of the day, this was where I entered for the buy. This is where I sold it. The rest of the day, it kind of had a reversal here. This could have shaken some people out of their positions, especially if you're someone that's moving your stop loss while the trade is going up. This would have hit you out. And then as you can see, for the rest of the day, you had bullish momentum right until 350. You were riding right back up with the high being formed at 315. And let's see how 315 looks here. So 315 is the lowest part of the dollar on the day. And let me just show you that. So 315 is like the low of the dollar. You can see that. And I'll change the color of that to not get too confused. But as you can see, at 315 was basically where the dollar formed its lowest point, and also on the QQQ today was where the QQQ formed its highest point. So that's a way that you could have probably taken this trade out. You realize that the dollar might not get this low again, so you take profits while it starts to kind of reverse against you, which would have been at a pretty good level, like a high of 28251, and then you would have entered at 277.62. So 28251, and you're entering at 277, right? So you'd have made 5 times what you risk once you held the trade, and you were right on the trend the entire time. I like it overall. It was a good day. It was a good day because even though the market kind of whipsaw me in the first part, I was able to just understand why it did it more and not be easily taken out by certain kind of moves, right? So let me even show you Netflix. So Netflix had earnings. So when you have earnings, you can see big moves like these that if you're a person that looks at charts, it's hard to understand because the candles is not gonna show that gap, right? But if you put up the line chart, you can see that big move on Netflix. And there's something about when Netflix leads. Anytime Netflix leads and it holds up, that's typically good for the rest of the tech stocks because Netflix is like a OG tech stock. I'm being honest. Netflix, from what I've seen, if Netflix has a good quarter, it's typical that the rest of the other stocks might have good quarters as well. So we're looking for Google, Amazon, Tesla, Microsoft as well to probably have good earnings and just rally off of that, right? So not only Netflix had a good day off of this bearish dollar move, we can also see that Bitcoin had a good day, probably touching 23,000 now. And let's see, no, 22,336. So Bitcoin also had a great day, and you could have traded it using the dollar as well. But I'm focusing on the QQQ, and we're just sticking to that until we master that, right? So you can see Netflix had a good earnings, and then it held up. Even though that little pullback could have shaken some people out like it did me, because as you can see, Netflix had the open here like a red candle. That's when you could say, oh no, my option is really going against me at this point. Maybe I should take profits. And even then, if you had an option and then Netflix skyrocketed, if you didn't take it out at 940 and you weren't in the money, you're losing money for the rest of the day, especially if your option was going to expire today and you were not in the money. Your options are worth zero at this point, right? But that's basically it. We're gonna have a much better week next week because just seeing how things are playing out, just a repetition, just seeing the confluence of things is going to be a perfect week. And I hope you are there with me, and I'll see you in the next video. I'll be dropping the Bitfarms video this weekend. It's all done, everything nice edits, and I know you like it. And there's something about it, this is like a uncrowded trade, and not a lot of people going to be paying attention to this like how I'm paying attention to this. The reason being, Bitfarms is like extremely undervalued, and if we have like a big move on Bitcoin at any time in the future, and Bitfarms still has those Bitcoins on its balance sheet, we're going to see something crazy, right? That's basically it. I'll see you next week, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.